Let's bring in our quarterback, Matt Ryan, hopping on with us now on a Monday morning. You know, guys, all morning and really all day, we'll be talking about people losing their jobs, but can we talk about people still in business? Let's talk about the actual playoff games still to come. Matt, Lions get the #1 seed there in the NFC yesterday. Crazy for that organization, for that fan base. But when you look at the bracket as a whole in the NFC, what are you sitting back in that first round of the playoffs looking back and looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, we just came off that Washington highlight. I think you're talking about Washington and Tampa and what that game looks like, you know, next week. I think you've got two quarterbacks who are playing really good football. Jaden Daniels, unbelievable rookie season. I think Baker Mayfield, you know, probably is the most deserving player that didn't go to the Pro Bowl, given his numbers and all of that. The Buccaneers were a little flat in that first half yesterday, but find a way to come back and get it done. I kind of like their grit. I like their experience, but I like the maturity of a young team in the Commanders. So I'm looking at that one. I think that's interesting. You know, and then we talk about the Packers and the Eagles. I think this game has the most question marks of any game next weekend. Both quarterbacks, Jordan Love with the elbow injury and Jalen Hurts having to clear concussion protocol. It's going to be interesting. Number one, to see if both those guys play. I kind of, my gut tells me they both will, but how they're going to be able to play. You know, coming off a couple of weeks out due to injury for Jalen Hurts, and then, you know, depending on how healthy that elbow is, it's going to be difficult for Jordan Love to do it. So, you know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I would have said both those teams are kind of playing and trending in the right direction. But when you have injuries at the most important position, it leaves a lot of question marks.
They're talking about with Jordan Love, numbness in that hand, of course, it's just precaution, but putting it in your shoes, you played the position. What does that mean for a quarterback? Is that something that can maybe carry over weeks at a time, or is that just a one-game thing for him?
You know, everyone's different. I've had elbow issues at different times, and for me, you know, the time I had kind of bad tendonitis in my right elbow, it was like a knife was jabbing into the side of your elbow every time you gripped and every time you released, and it makes it tough. But you know, we'll see. We'll see what the extent of that injury is. Jordan Love has a history of playing through things, right, and playing well through injuries, whether it's the knee, shoulder, different things like that. He's been able to compete regardless of how his body's feeling. So I expect him to be able to go. How well he plays, that's kind of the question mark, because I think the last couple of weeks, you look at the Packers offense, and it just has not looked the same as it did between Thanksgiving and the middle of December.
Matt, I'm interested, do you think there's much pressure on the Eagles this year with Nick Sirianni and that squad, #2 seed coming in, going up against the Packers and Jordan Love?
I mean, I know there's a bunch of pressure, you know, on that organization, on Nick, on Jalen, and that's what you want. I mean, if you're in this business, you want to be in the positions where there's this outside expectation, because the inside expectation is more significant than anything. But, you know, I know they're feeling it. I grew up in that town, understand the dynamics of that fan base and their expectations for their football team and what they want from this group. And so, you know, really it's posturing. The entire regular season for the Philadelphia Eagles has been posturing, putting them in position to make a run at a Super Bowl, and it starts now. And they've got to come out and play well. I expect them to. You know, I think their offensive line has been dominant the entire year. Saquon Barkley's been unbelievable. The defense has really trended in the right direction. The second half of the season, I think their defense has played extremely well. Again, it comes down to that X factor. Is Jalen Hurts healthy, ready to go, and can he be effective for them?
Brandon thinks there's extra pressure because they didn't let Saquon go for the record. So now you got to get the Super Bowl.
I just think the Bucs did it right. I just wish Saquon actually went after it. It's not just a history moment for him, but also the front five. I just feel like, look, your offensive line worked so hard this season. Go get the record.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Listen, you got to admit, though, they're two completely different situations.
Right.
For Mike Evans and for, you know, you're playing to get in, right? So if you're out there and you're available and you're ready to go, I absolutely loved what the Bucs did at the end of the game for Mike Evans, right? He deserved that. The consistency that he's had throughout his career, the way that they did it at the end of the game, you know, I thought that was a really cool thing from that organization. It hurts me, you know, as a guy who was 14 years in Atlanta and a Falcon, and I never liked the Bucs, but I have a ton of respect for Mike Evans. I have a ton of respect for Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles and how they did it. But rewarding a guy that gives you everything he's got, week in and week out, year in and year out for a decade plus, I thought that was really cool.
Didn't like the Bucs, but he did say he wants to watch that Bucs Commanders game. So we're gonna, make sure we get back to you on that one. But we will dive into the AFC when we come back. Hang tight, Matt Ryan. We come back. We're making predictions in the AFC Wild Card round. Round 3 between the Ravens and Steelers is loading. Will it be Lamar Jackson or Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell Wilson, taking that rubber match? Well, Fresh Takes presented by Fresh Pet. It's not dog food, it's food. And we welcome back Matt Ryan with some food for thought as we turn the page to the AFC playoff picture and those wild card games that begin Saturday evening, Brandon.
Yeah, we're going to be grubbing this weekend coming up, but especially on Sunday, Bo Nix and the Broncos heading to see Josh Allen, who might be one of those MVPs with the Bills there. For Buffalo here, though, Matt, it's all about getting to New Orleans. What does this group need to do on Sunday to make sure to keep the ball rolling here?
I think you got to get off to a fast start. I think there's a lot of expectation on the Buffalo Bills right now. They're playing at home. Josh has had this amazing season, but it's kind of the underlying narrative has always been, can you beat the Chiefs? Can they beat, Kansas City in the playoffs to get them there? Well, they've got to get to Kansas City first, right? And so for me, I think this is a Broncos team that feels like it's playing with house money. And so I think you want to take the wind out of the Broncos' sails early and get off to a fast start, kind of play from in front in that football game, allow the defense to pin their ears back and try and get after a young quarterback in Bo Nix. It's an interesting matchup. I really think it, because I think there's, we were talking about Philadelphia earlier, the weight, the expectation, the outside pressure that's on them. I think the same thing is there for the Buffalo Bills. And I think the opposite is true on the Denver Broncos. I feel like they can come in, young team, play free. They've got an experienced head coach with just not as much expectation on them, and they can go cut it loose. So if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I think it's about coming out of the gates quickly and trying to play that game from in front.
Yeah, the Broncos may be thinking, why not us, right, with those low expectations. All right, we do get the Steelers and the Ravens in round 3 on Saturday. I love this. They split their regular season series, but it feels like Pittsburgh sort of backed into the postseason, losing 4 in a row, all against playoff caliber teams outside the Bengals, who are dangerous. It's too bad they didn't get in. But can they get it together to beat Lamar Jackson in Baltimore?
I feel like this is like the best case scenario for the Steelers, which is, I feel like, a crazy thing to say, because the Baltimore Ravens are playing really good football. Lamar Jackson's been unbelievable. But I think when you're on a skid like the Steelers have been, going against an opponent that you know really well, right? I think that adds to, maybe some of this confidence that you need to build. They beat them at one point in the regular season. You mentioned the split. So, I think if you're the Steelers, I think you have to look at it like, we know this team. We know how to beat them. We know the blueprint. This is what we're going to do. It helps from a game planning perspective, familiarity, all of those kind of things. You can throw in some wrinkles. That being said, I think the Baltimore Ravens roll. I think this team is playing its best football at the right time. John Harbaugh's done a great job of navigating the season, right? You had all of that stuff at the beginning of the year. The first, the toe against Kansas City, and kind of balancing in Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson's great year, getting the best out of the wide receivers, all of that stuff. The defensive struggles that they had midway through the year, they've kind of navigated it, and they found a way to play their best football at the right time. I think there's a collision course for Buffalo and for Baltimore in a couple of weeks in the playoffs, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Man, you talk about playing some of your best football at the right time. We've been waiting all season long to see that from Aaron Rodgers. We got it yesterday. 4 touchdowns. The man is 39 years old, 20-plus years in the league. And then I'm curious, from your perspective, Matt, and I'm not just saying this, I know you're 41, but at 39, I'm just saying, could we see a Wolf of Wall Street return of Aaron Rodgers in the future?
Listen, I played against this guy long enough to not count out anything, right? Unbelievable player. If this is, in fact, it's an incredible career, and it was a honor to compete against him. It was fun to watch him as a peer, and his performance, his consistency year in and year out. I'm kind of with you, though. I think the last half of the season, he looked healthier to me. He can still spin it. He can still play ball. We'll see what happens, what decision he makes, what decision the Jets make. But I have always had a ton of respect for Aaron as a player, as a person, and so we'll see what happens. But it was cool to see him get over 500 yesterday. That's an incredible milestone, man. That's a lot of touchdown passes, and takes a lot of consistency for a long time. So hats off to him.
We'll have to see what he has, because again, as always, we are handcuffed to see what Aaron Rodgers does all season
he's in
the dark.
Yeah.
Back in the dark there. He is Matt Ryan. Appreciate it as always. Hey, look, you can catch him on Sundays. NFL Today, the crew always getting it popping there with JB. You see all the smiling faces come Sunday at 12 Eastern. We're talking postseason. You can catch all that on CBS.